to another episode of Going Over. I am your neighborhood friendly coach, promoter, trainer, 43-year-old professional wrestler, Zack Primetime Reeb, and I'm joined alongside every
You had
time.
it right the first time. You had it
I
right the
had it
first
right.
time.
I thought I did. I'm joined alongside my podcast partner, the 7-foot wrecking ball, Paul Isadora. Paul, how you doing today? And most importantly, it's been a while since there's been a match on this screen, and it's been a while since there's been a third person on this screen. We are back. How is the wrecking ball today?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Yeah, man. I feel like every time we're on here recently, it's been a match critique or it's been talking to a third person. And I just know you're like, hey, we gotta get back to the roots, man. We gotta get back to just me and you, just chopping it up. So here we are again. Back to the two of us, the two old guys talking wrestling.
Just two old guys, just two old losers talking wrestling. You know, I was just sitting there thinking when we were doing this, I was like, man, we have to talk about some stuff. And we just did a show, and the Red Bluff show, and that's what I'm hoping for you with this new promotional, is that we're going to be coming to Reno, and we're going to be in Sparks, and we're going to be in Winnemucca, and we're going to be in Carson City and other places, and we're going to watch your houses get bigger and bigger and bigger. Because the one thing that I noticed, and a couple things I want to talk about today after last night, don't mind me, I'm tired. We didn't get back until, oh God, 1 in the morning. We stupidly watched the Royal Rumble till 5. We had to unload. We had to get the trailer back, and then we had to run class. And then I came home and I passed out like an idiot. But what I wanted to talk about today, and we had talked about this topic before: execution, the execution of professional wrestling. And last night was a good theme for that, because you get all these young guys, and you get some guys that have been doing it for a while, and we've been talking about the ear for the crowd. And I want to get your thoughts on it, but I really noticed last night that true blue diehard wrestling fans just want to be part of the show, and they want to interact, and most importantly, just tell us a story. We don't give a shit about the moves. We just want a story. We want to be able to interact with the wrestlers. We want the villains to taunt us. We want to get behind the baby face. So your thoughts on some things you saw last night, and things that you've seen here in the last, I don't know, I'd say up to 6 months to a year, on execution.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess starting with last night, you think about the arsonist and the Dickey situation. So you go back a number of months, and you have arsonist is has a winning record against Dickey, right? And that rolls right into his hometown of Red Bluff, and so now he's got all of his fans behind him, and it's an opportunity for him to compete for the Prospects Championship. And you see that play out. I'm on commentary, and I'm just watching the whole situation with Dickey's got a very small part of that audience, and then the rest of the audience is the hometown crowd, right? And I talk about that in basketball so much, just with different situations. So I'm a big proponent of dunking the basketball, right? Because I feel like regardless, if you're at your opponent's home court and you get a dunk, regardless of where the momentum's at that point, if they're kicking the shit out of you and you go get a dunk on somebody, that quiets their crowd, right? But if it's at my home place and I get a dunk, it doesn't matter if we're down, if we're up. My crowd goes bananas, right? And it's just the momentum shift, right? Sometimes people say, "Oh, there is no home court advantage," but I think in this situation that was very evident that you go into um, a town that you know that you're not supported in, and it's difficult, and obviously the situation came with the home guy getting the victory. And you can say what you want about the way that it went down, but I think the crowd being involved in the whole story there really played a big part in how the scenario went down, right? So Arsonist gets the win in that scenario, um, and then last night they have a rematch, right? And they come to Dickie's hometown, right? So Dickie's the crowd favorite, and the crowd's behind him. So and I don't know, man, that it leads into um, the two of us. I thought I knew you really well until I saw what happened last night, right? So I'm focused on some outside interference on one side of the ring, and then something goes down on the other side of the ring. Arsonist is laying, you're standing in the ring, you've got the belts. So I don't know, man. In my mind, there is some questions, right? So I thought I knew you really well. I see this situation go down. Um, and obviously, I left your show without even saying goodbye last night, right? So that's where now the crowd's involved, right? They see what happens. I didn't have a good vantage point of what was going on. They say one thing, you say something, but the referee saw something completely different, right?
Mhm.
So maybe explain some of that as far as we're talking about the crowd interaction and you know what happened last night.
Well, the beauty of the storytelling that you're talking about, the beauty of the execution is you mentioned it. In this scenario, we're in Red Bluff. 300 something fans are behind the arsonist. So no matter if he taps out, no matter if the dudes come out, no matter the bad guys are cheating, they're getting cheered. And the good guy can't do no right, but he can't do no wrong because he's going to get scolded for doing wrong too. And he's got the family there, man. He's a draw everywhere he goes in this case. But in this case, when you're projecting that, you're like, okay, this is Primetime's guy right here. And they cheated him. And I had to watch this next to you and next to Doc in Red Bluff. And we get to Oroville, and the place was insane out the gate, man. Like, they're loud. We got them. They're ready for this. They don't give a shit what we do. They're just ready for it. So it becomes an easier night for us. And the Dickie Arsonist thing, there's so much heat there. And you bring back that same scenario. You bring back the same scenario, but this time the other baby face says enough's enough, and he comes out to save the day. And the villain says, oh, I got an idea. I'm gonna fall down and act like you hit me with the belt. And the best part about it all is there's Don Stockton and there's King Cash. So Chico Lopez, the ref, is now like, he hears it, and then he's got two other guys over here screaming, yes, he did, at ringside. We have nobody else there. And Dickie didn't see anything. And I remember when me and Chico are arguing back and forth, it's the execution that we talk about. And we always tell people, because we've been going around to these things saying, hey, slow the fuck down. And you're going to hear that your entire career. So for these young guys, you're going to hear that. Slow the fuck down. They might not put the F word into it, but that's what I've always been told to me. And I remember and I'm in there with Chico, and Chico is, you've wrestled Chico. I've wrestled Chico. He's great. He gets it. And when you have a referee who used to be a big time performer who gets it, I'm telling him, I'm like, let's stay here in this moment because there's so much going on around us with that ear for the crowd that let's not go back over here. Let's not make the decision right now. Let's continue to argue because they're up. They're up, and we are about to milk this crowd right here on nothing. And we did. We milked this crowd with an argument between me and him for 2 or 3 minutes. And ring announcer Zach Bay called me today. Or I called him because he asked me, like, for his critiques from last night. So I called him and I said, we had talked about what the ring announcer is supposed to do in the count out, the disqualification, or the draw, right? So in the count out of the draw, you're milking the crowd. And I'm not going to use all three. I'll just use last night's as an example, and you can use all three as the same. So I'm telling him, Chico has to finally go over. He's got to take the belt. He's got to finally go over, and he's got to talk to the timekeeper and the ring announcer, and he's got to do it in front of Dickie's family. Arsonist has to tap. Wherever you get that ankle lock on at that moment, make sure you guys turn to Dickie's family. There's 50 plus of his family out there in red with signs. Do the tap in front of them. They got to see it face to face. And yeah, the ring announcer, he is such a big part of this and the reaction of the timekeeper, because the ring announcer's got to, you got to hear Chico saying, I'm disqualifying Dickie for outside interference by Zach Primetime Reeb. And now you get Dickie's reaction. You get the heel's reaction. You get my reaction. This isn't on a microphone yet. The fans hear what's going on, so they're pissed about what's going on, and now they're pissed because they hear the official announcement. Now the ring announcer, and for you young ring announcers there, we talked about the draw, the disqualification, and the count out. But in this case, we're specifically talking about this type of disqualification. The ring announcer has to finally, if the heat's there, you don't even need to talk yet. Wait for that heat to die down and then build you some more heat. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed by senior official Chico Lopez. You don't have to make this announcement right away. If they're up while you're making this announcement at any given point in this, let them come back down. And the same thing goes for the work in the ring. Let them come up and let them come back. You're building heat and you're taking the heat away. Build some more heat, because all you're doing is building sympathy for that baby face. And that whole scenario built the sympathy for the baby face. And I remember telling Chico, I said, go tell Dickie to come up and stand in front of me and then walk by me and shoulder check me. And this is all stuff that we're just, it's spur of the moment, because that's what we're feeling, you know what I mean? And we get to these situations and you're talking about that situation, and that's the perfect situation for execution, because that was executed perfectly. I feel like the announcer, he did a great job, but I feel like I told him on the phone, you could have milked a little more. But last time, and I had to specifically tell the guy, don't play the music right away this time. Don't play it. So when you're building situations, those type of scenarios in the count out, the disqualification, and the time limit draw, you have to play. You got to get 4 or 5 minutes out of the announcement at the end and let the audience really, really draw that in. So, and it created a scenario that in turn was a story all night long. That was the story. So the story is this kid's going over, and the heat's on me and Anthony Marcus. So we have to tell this story. We got to open with the story, we got to continue the story, and we got to end with the story. And when Dickie finally all that went on, but then Dickie eliminates us both at the end, it's a perfect tie-in for me and Marcus. And the pop for Dick, like, because we had a lot of people say, "Hey, do you think, do you think they're going to cheer for the finish?" And I said, "They're going to love it." And he's got 50 something people, diehards for him in the crowd because he's a draw in his hometown. And that just spreads like wildfire through the audience all night long. Because the other 300, 350 fans, they start getting behind and feeding off of these people's emotions. And now, next thing you know, by the end of the night, you don't just have 51 fans that want you to win. You have an entire building of fans that want you to win. Your thoughts on that, Paul?
Yeah, so I was just gonna jump in with a little bit more of the execution. I mean, you had mentioned a little bit about the ring announcer, um, but then you kind of glossed over the guy that's doing the music, right? It is so important that there's no assumptions made, right? The guy that's doing the music, he doesn't know what's going on either, right? Because he sees what he thinks he saw. Like, from my vantage point, um, my attention was drawn to a different direction. And then when the bump happened on another spot of the ring, then I turned my attention to that and I was like, oh shit, Primetime just hit that guy with the belt. And then you're like, then it's going crazy. Like, what just happened? Did I see what I thought I just saw? Which I actually didn't see, right? Because my focus was somewhere else. So the music guy couldn't possibly have seen it either. So the execution of that as well, like the music guy doesn't know what happened. He thinks he knows because he sees a guy laying in the ring and he sees the guy holding a belt. And the assumption that you made is Primetime just hit this dude with the belt, you know? So you would think, oh well, I know what the decision is, but what did the referee see, right? So the execution of that as well. So you talked about not hitting the music yet, because we also want the fans to go, what are these guys talking about? Is Primetime telling the referee like, no, I did not do that. You can't make an assumption because you didn't see it either, because you had your focus on something else. So now in the fans' eyes, it's also up in the air. What are these guys talking about right now? Um, Primetime's obviously pleading this case to the referee. Do not disqualify him. I didn't hit him with the belt. Um, he's playing you right now. He fell down because he saw an opportunity and he's playing you right now. Don't make the wrong decision right now, referee. So I think all of that stuff goes right into the execution. And then you're talking about how drawn out the announcement was. There's the getting the audience's attention with the ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed, right? And the audience thinks they know what's going on. Like, my dude is getting fucked right now. So they start getting angry, right? You start hearing the rumblings in the crowd. And so they're making assumptions as well of what's about to happen. But they also don't know. So they start quieting down so they can listen. What is the announcer going to say next? And then I've just been informed, as a result of a disqualification because Zack Primetime Reeb, interfered. And then they start coming up again because they know what happens now. Like, he interfered. The referee is making that conclusion that he did interfere. Now he's disqualified. And then they're thinking about, the repercussions of that. My guy won, but oh no, my guy didn't win.
Didn't win.
My guy didn't win because of this.
Yes.
Right? So, it's like the guy you want to be, that's the guy you want to be down is down, but it's not the result that you wanted to happen. Like, you wanted to see Arsonist down at the end, but this isn't the reason that you wanted to see him down. You wanted to see him down because he got beat legitimately by your guy. So the emotions are just going wild. And then obviously the final announcement, when it's and still the Prospects champion, the Arsonist. Then there's another reaction to that. So it's the original thing they saw, the conclusion that they came in their head, like, oh, this is not good for my guy. Then the referee talking to you, and they're trying to listen in, see what you're saying, what's going on. Then it's the discussion with the referee and the timekeeper and the ring announcer. And then they're going, oh, man, I know what's going on here. So there's another reaction. And
Yeah.
then the final reaction, so it's
Can be
just
split. It can be
right,
split too because excuse me. And still he doesn't even have to say prospects champion yet.
right,
Because and saying and still and drawing that out is going to
right,
bring a reaction in its own, and it's execution. It's you're executing. You got the two guys on the outside of the ring that are with the arsonist.
right,
You have me. You have Dickey. There's a story there. You have Chico Lopez, a referee. And Karina Kyle does the same. Sparky Ballard would do the same. You have a referee that's going to understand what his part of the execution is. You have the conversation between the referee. You have the young timekeeper who's up and he's trying to figure out what's going on too. You got the commentators. They got to execute at this point too for the live audience on your social media, your streaming apps. And then you got to know your audience. I just talked about, one thing I told those guys is when the tap out happens, make sure you turn towards the family. So because that's why they're there. That's why the tickets are sold. So you're booking this for the next event, right? Everything you're doing is always for the next event. So from Red Bluff, there was such a fallout of, the Red Bluff cheaters. That's what I don't even refer to them as the dudes or arsonists or by name anymore, because for 3 weeks online, it was that whole family and everything was intertwined with now social media. We're getting involved. And you got to know your audience, man. You hear so many guys say it and they go, you got to know your audience. And everybody goes, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're into this, they're into that. Who cares about the moves? That's one thing I found out. Not like I didn't know, but last night was a great indication that who cares about the moves? If moves are done at the right time when they're supposed to be done, it could be any move thrown in there. It could be any submission. It could be a settle down hold done at the right time. But everybody's so worried about going out there and having a match, and the experience level is so low that nobody worries about the execution or what is that audience out there. Know your audience. Well, we knew our audience because we followed our audience. We saw what worked up there and we said, oh shit, let's take what worked up there and let's bring it back over here. And the emotion, what gets it over, what gets Dickie the sympathy, what puts the heat on me, what makes those guys even more villainous and everything else, and it gets everybody involved, is that situation because this is his rematch. He
right,
got cheated on the road. Now he's come home. He's in better shape, which he was. He had new gear. He looked great. And arsonists look great, but here's these two guys. They're back. They're ready. And now the tide has flipped. Now I got my people, and this is my rematch. And we're gonna justify this and make it right. And like you said earlier, and you couldn't have explained it any better than you did. I was like hanging on your words over here, which I hope that people listening hang on it is uh and we gave it to them right out the gate too. We didn't make them wait because there was a story to tell all night. So we said, hey, we were very concerned last night with the execution with everybody. So where most people have these booking meetings where like, get everybody out to the ring and we're going to clap for people that are here for the first time. And let's take some prom photos too, whatever. We weren't concerned about doing a booking meeting. We were concerned when we heard something. Oh, I got to go talk to the camera guy. Hey, what's a moment in this match? This is a moment. Make sure we get this. Hey, make sure we get that. Hey, make sure you're here. where the execution of something happened. I said, all right, there's going to be an interference. So there's a tag match. So there's two heels, there's two babies, a referee, and then a female wrestler valet manager who's going to get involved in the outcome of the finish. So I say, I don't care about the moves, guys. I don't care what you're doing. Put the heat on, build the whatever. I say, what are you doing when you come in? And they say, she's doing this. And I go, okay, so who is she doing it to? Oh, she's doing it to that baby face. So I say, okay, second, where are you going to be at, baby face? Okay. Where are you going to be at, heels? Okay. Where's the referee? You're going to keep him distracted for this long? Okay. And you're painting the execution of the finish, because that is what has to get over. Because you can do all the moves in the world, the finish is the story. So if you cannot execute a good finish, which almost becomes a small match in itself, if you cannot execute a good finish and convey what's happening through that, then it doesn't matter if you had a banger. Hey, Paul, I just went out there and had a banger. And that's what these kids are saying nowadays. And I don't even mean to mock anybody, but like a banger's like Dr. Dre 2001, you know what I mean? The Chronic or whatever, a Chronic 2001. Every song on that's a banger. Still 20 years later, you can pop that in your car or whatever, and people are driving down the road like, yeah, that's a banger. So you could have the best match in the world, and if you can't execute even a simple finish and convey these things and know your audience, then they're going to forget. Nobody got over. Nobody got elevated. We don't have anything. So then we just come back to the next show and we go, all right, let's try it again. Well, instead of trying it again, the idea of this isn't trying to lay out this like, he's gonna win, he's gonna lose, he's gonna wrestle him, blah 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 blah. It's how do we find out if these people like this guy and dislike this guy? Do these people mesh well? Do we need somebody right now to come up to build to be this good guy in the future? So you got to think as a company. Execution isn't just in the ring, like we're talking about with finishes. The execution becomes the booking. And one thing I found out too was, in talking to my coach, he goes, no, you are the booker. You book the talent. You do all that. I am just an ear to you. I am the creative. I'm part of creative. I don't control who gets booked, and I can't get people booked on the show, but I can advise you on creativity of things. And that's what I'm always 100% behind. I like guys that call me, and girls. I like guys and girls. I do. They're great. But I like them when they call me up and they go, hey, I got an idea. And whether it's shit or whether it's bad, I'm going to remember that person and want to talk to that person, because I love ideas, man. I love other people's opinions on what they saw on the show. So, I mean, I think if we can, damn it, boom, there's that word think. Think and opinion is just a way to try to be nice about something so you don't hurt somebody's feelings. I hope that more people start really working on the execution of building. That's what I was saying. We got to build baby faces for the future. We got to build tag teams. We got to build heels. We got to do these things. And that's our main focus as promoters and bookers and all that stuff, is we have to be able to execute getting these talents over time. And what's your thoughts on that, Paul?
Well, I was going to jump in on the tag match you were just talking about. So one of my favorite parts of before the show was that those 6 people, right? The 2 teams, the ref, and the valet, right? Came to me and said, "Hey, this is what we think the finish is going to be. Can you watch it and tell me if it makes sense? Is the referee distracted properly? Does the action happen in the proper way?" because it's about the execution, right? Because all that other shit that happens at the beginning of the match, you know, maybe the fans remember it, maybe they don't. We always talk about moments, and the finish is the moment, right? That the people are going to get upset about, or they're going to be excited about, or whatever, right? That's what they're going to remember. So that was the most important thing. They wanted to be like, hey, can you make sure all of our ducks are in a row here? This is what we think is going to happen. Make sure the legal guys are involved in the pinfall. Make sure the distraction is there for the referee so he doesn't know what's going on. Um, make sure the extracurriculars happen. Make sure that person's out of the way before the referee turns around. And we kind of just reviewed it. Like, I was asking questions. How, how are you going to make sure the referee knows that this is the time to turn around and get back to watching the action? Um, how are you going to make sure that he's occupied long enough? And how are you going to, without saying, okay, turn around, how are you going to visually, with, we talk about the communication, the nonverbal communication. How are we going to make that happen so the referee knows, okay, now it's time to turn around and you're not going to see anything? And then I think later in a different tag match, I didn't get the, hey, what do you think, with all those people? And I think maybe the referee saw something that he wasn't supposed to see, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I also think the kind of going back to the Dickey thing, you had some built-in reasons that people would think that you would potentially screw him over because of the execution on previous episodes of Limelight, and just things that Doc was saying to you about, if you would have just given him 5 more minutes, he might have been able to beat you. Like you had some, like there's some reasoning that you didn't want to go an extra 5 minutes because you knew deep down that he could beat you if you did do that. So now you've got, like, there's a reason for you to try to, throw a wrench in the cogs for those things to happen. So just these little, things that you're planting here and there, the execution of those things along the way, I think are also important. So, um, you were talking about people throwing you ideas as well. That's a
Mm-hmm.
great indication that somebody cares about your product as well. They want to
Mm-hmm.
make your product better. Hey, here's an idea that I think could help your product be better. And that makes you know that they're engaged in what's going on, right? They want your product to succeed because they know your product succeeds, they succeed, they get other opportunities as well, right? So I think that is a huge teller of people that want to make your product better. But we've also seen the opposite of that. That people go, hey, I got this idea, right? This is what we want to do. And then when the execution isn't there, then it's like, well, now that idea is garbage because you didn't execute on, step number one of the multiple step plan. So I think the execution kind of goes both ways, right? If it's not
Yeah.
there, if you execute it the wrong way, um, you have a big idea, you don't execute it properly, then it just kind of, all right, let's crumple that up, let's throw that one in the garbage. You got to start all over with something else. So, I don't know, coming up and asking other people, and I think it's sometimes it's our ego that gets in the way, right? We think, oh, well, we know what we want to accomplish, and instead of just running it past someone else and going, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Right? It's just an outsider's perspective of it. Bad News came up to me last night, was asking me some questions about, being a big guy. What would you do? Like, I don't get to ask this question very much. What would you do? Because you're a big guy like me. So I got to give him some feedback on certain things, and obviously I ran it past you as well. This is what he said, and you're like, oh man, we need to go have a talk with him real quick, right? So it was just every little thing, like, how are we going to execute this the way that you see it in your head, or how am I going to bring something up to you that you go, you know what, you're right. I wasn't thinking about it like that. Let's switch it up. Whatever the case may be. The ultimate thing is, how are we going to execute your vision to accomplish what you want to accomplish with your product? So I
Yeah.
think that's in a nutshell.
Well, it's not just my vision. It's not just so it goes to promoter booker awareness. And I'm not saying this to diss on anybody or anything. I'm literally saying this like as someone who's learning more and more every single time. We want to trust guys that come in. We want to trust them and be like, you got this. But there's nothing we are stupid as promoters if we don't go up to them and say, hey, what do you got going on? Hey, what do you got any moments in this match? What's this? Okay, we're dumb if we just allow the control of our segments and our time to just go by. It's like last night I had the concession stand, my girl in the concession stand say, hey, I think we lost a couple $100 by not having intermission. And I said, well, I just felt this vibe and I looked at the time and I knew we had this long rumble and we got to get out of this building. Excuse me. So I knew that we had to just go straight into it. And we had to, manipulate the show by sending messages and sending, we had a hot lead into it with me and Anthony Marcus at the start through messages that were conveyed by having a runner in the back, having a good runner who can execute, having smart guys who can, if you got a light spot where you turn the light off, and having someone that can cue the light guy, like having people on board at your show, because too many times do we go to these shows and we're going to go out and smoke some weed, or we're going to go out and hit on some girls or talk and do whatever. It's like, no, man, I don't want guys on my show, guys and girls. I don't want them on my show that are going to go, hey, I'm going to show up, do the booking. Hey, I got a long drive ahead of me. I got to leave early. Well, I mean, are you here or are you not here? Because we had 3 cancellations, and one cancellation was, and these are all 3 outside talents. Actually, we had 4 cancellations. So we had 4 cancellations, and 3 of them were on match graphics, right? So like the first cancellation was, I feel I have a bigger opportunity for another booking. Okay, go for it. We'll revisit, down the road when you got some time. Another one was I was sick. And it sucks because the guy who was sick, he was in a big match that had some heat and some build behind it. So it's just like we talked about with you in the past with the championship, me and you couldn't make a show and it was a big show. So now you kind of go back into the drawing board. So, I mean, that happens too. Like they're all different types. One cancellation was a guy that had hit me up and he was interested in coming back and he was coming a distance. And he said, bad vibes. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm getting bad vibes, man. Nah, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to have to cancel. We're going to have to call it. But this one's on me. It's like, were you even coming to the show or not? I don't know. But I was trying to work with you as someone from the past. You had told, you had said I'd done you a couple favors and gave you a little breaks at the start. So I was trying to put you on there. I don't need a guy to come 9 hours. And I don't need to pay that person or this person or that person extra money. If I'm booking someone from outside talent and we're bringing them in, especially at 3-4 hours, and you do this a lot. I see it on your show a lot. If you're driving 7 to 8 hours one way or whatever to come work for me, it's because I want to use you. I see some value in you. Not that I want you to rape me for travel, food, gas, an overpriced fee, a flight. Like I'm not getting any benefit out of doing that. I'm trying to help you out as somebody else. So like there were 3 matchups last night that had match graphics. And one match got completely pulled, and then we turned the other 2. So you look at it and you go, those 3 guys that I was going to book could have executed well, and it could have been good. But then you realize I didn't need any of those guys on the show. It would have been good to have them there, but I didn't need those guys because those guys are wrestling all over, and God bless them. Do what you do. But I got a school and a locker room and a lot of young local talent around. So I got a whole locker room of guys that want the opportunity and they want to execute, and they just need you to go, hey, here we go. And I learned one thing last night, and it's said all the time. But my coach was sitting there with Rick, and we were talking, and we were putting stuff together, and it was just this amazing learning experience backstage. And he says, you always got to look to see who you're going to elevate next. So it was like, Rick was like, yeah, Dickie's going to eliminate me. Well, Dickie's already got the heat, and he's got the fans, and he's winning, and he's involved in these angles. And then here's Angel Escobar. And if you notice at the end, like he eliminated Propane and he eliminated Phil and he eliminated Rick Luxury. It was that moment where you looked over and you said, oh, this guy is still in this match at the end. These other guys are already over or are getting over. This guy's not. So he needs to be the one. Let's elevate him. Because now if you elevate him, who gives a shit if you execute and elevate this other guy? Because he's already over. That adds nothing to anything you're doing down the road. And as long as you can keep elevating guys, and that's what my coach told me. And I was like, he's been just hitting me with some eye openers lately. He's just like, always look in the locker room and see who can I elevate that's not doing anything or being elevated. So when you're like, who needs to get a victory tonight? Oh, that kid right there, he's a good little baby. He needs a victory. And that one victory, if we execute it right, might create, might be the spark in the burner to elevate a future baby face for whether it's the Inter California, whether it's the, tag, main belt, prospects belt, or if it's just to elevate a baby face to get a good heel to get him over to move him up the card. There's so much execution in that locker room that we get so caught up in our own, like, I got to get over. I got to book this name. I got to bring this guy in. 9 times out of 10, those guys don't care. They're just there to get their money. So what are your thoughts? Because one thing that I've really noticed since we've been doing this and we've been talking that year before, the year previous, and I've been going to your show, I've seen a lot of people, and we've talked about it. What is your thoughts and opinions, Paul? And I want to really hear these on the outside talent and the guys because now you have students. So it's not going to be very long. You got my guys and you got students, and you're going to have a locker room of people that you can go, I got a shot for you. So what's your thoughts on that? The execution of the outside talent coming in and how far they're coming and what they're asking for, man.
Right. We've talked about that before, how, and we talked about it with Edlo. That was a question that I was asking. It's like, should people, promote your show only because there's a specific match graphic of it, or is it something where you feel like I'm on this show, so I'm going to promote it, right? Regardless, because I want people to be there, and that's a huge point that we make for the students, right? It's like you don't understand right now how important it is to help build a bigger fan base, but when you get to the point where you're making your debut, then you're going to appreciate it, right? Like, hey, this fan base started at 200, but we've got it up to 350. Now I'm making my debut next month, and then now instead of the 200 people that we had originally, now we've built it up to 350. Now you get to debut in front of 350 people, right? So I just think that maybe some of that stuff is lost on some people, right? You want to try to elevate the product that you're going to be on, promote it, make sure that those fans are coming to that show because you're going to be on it, right? And I think it's you had mentioned, or maybe it was Josh had mentioned, that that's the thing that you want to see, right? The things that you can't have from everyone. You want those people that stand out and do the extra stuff, right? So in my mind, like for our shows, Jerry Gigolo is that guy, right? He's the guy that's you're always going to see constantly on all forms of social media that he's going to promote our shows. Can't wait to get back to Reno. Excited to see you in Sparks. We're going to Winnemucca. Always a great time there. Like just always just promoting it, right? Because this is something that he enjoys coming here, has a great time. The fans love him. But it wasn't like that at the very beginning, right? This has been a process that he's worked hard at getting to this point, and you think about the guys that you want to do that, right? And I asked that question with you guys last time. It's like, should people only promote your show if there's a match graphic with their face on it? And you said egotistically, that's what people like, right? They think, oh, you put a match graphic with my name on it, that means I'm special, right? Instead of having the mindset of I want to become special and get to the point where I'm on the poster, right? I'm the focal point of the poster because I'm the draw, right? Make yourself valuable. And that gets right back to execution, right? If you can execute what the promoter's asking you to do, that makes you more valuable as well. So you have that where you go, and it doesn't matter. We've talked about jobbers, we've talked about squash matches, we've talked about all these things. It's like you need someone to play those roles, and you want someone that is asking you, I want to play an important role on your show. What can I do? And then you give them, what they need to do, and they take it seriously and they do it exactly the way that you want it to happen. They execute it the way you want it to go, right? Then you go, I can put more faith in that guy because he's going to do what I want to happen. Um, he's going to pass out flyers. He's going to sell tickets. He's going to promote the show. He's going to make our product better because of all of these things. So I think those are the things that we kind of try to impress on the students as well. Is you're coming to the show. All of the things are important, right? And we tell them about that with other shows. If you show up early to somebody else's show that you're not on, but you want to show your face and you help them with ring crew, you ask them if you can sell concessions. Can I run jackets to the back? Can I do security? Can I help you break down? What do you need help with? What can I do? Those are the guys that show up at the show and they're not booked and somebody cancels, right? You had 3 cancellations and now you go, hey, this guy didn't make it, but guess what? Now I have a spot for your guy who I always see here, who's always helping out, who's always just trying to do whatever's necessary. And that's how you get those original those bookings. Someone sees that you're doing something that's of value, and now they want to reward you for that. So and I think that's the way that you get those bookings. I know that you have a story about JMM elevating Dickey, and I have a story as well, right? JMM was a fill-in a tag match with the Classic Connection, right? And this is why I love the Classic Connection as well, because it's like one of those I could have you could go in there, you could just squash this brand new team, but instead they did everything they could to showcase our students, JMM being one of those. And I think that was the light bulb for JMM that goes, oh shit, I can do that for other people, right? Somebody did that for me, I could do that for other people. And I think when you have the attitude of, especially as a heel, you use Bad News Blakesley last night, right? Slips and falls on his ass, right? And gets up and is ready to be ridiculed as a result, right? You're not going to try to shy away from it. You're going to play right into it. I slipped on my ass. Now I'm going to give you the opportunity to ridicule me, and I'm going to make it look like I'm pissed off. And they say show your ass. So guys that are willing to do that, right? It's not always about being the headline, the main story. It's about doing your part on the show. whether that's security, concessions, taking jackets, being the first match, being the squash match guy, or being the main guy. You know, all of those things carry importance or the other. What do you think about that?
Oh, 100%. When you talk about that execution, you were just talking about that. So I had a spot in that Rumble, and I was going to give it to a guy that I don't even use, and it was going to be that spot where you get eliminated right away. And you set the new record for the fastest elimination in 25 years for this. And I was going to give him that spot, and the guy that was going to eliminate him was just going to be any random guy. And I actually somebody had called me, a guy who's been doing it for a while, who was making his debut that just recently came to our company, and he actually pitched me the idea for that spot. And then the guy who's wrestling next week is the guy who's going to clothesline him over. And then I talked to my coach, and he's like, yeah, but don't have him eliminate him in a second or two because that's an unbeatable record. He said, extend it to the 8 to 10 seconds so it can be beat if it needs to be down the road. I'll never do something that nobody can obtain, because then you're caught right there. You're caught in the trap. So he had to execute. So he went around and told everybody, and I'm in the ring, and it's like, hey, there's actual one real spot in this Rumble where the center of the ring needs to be cleared. The guys need to be down. They need to be out of the way. And this guy's coming out, and I'm going around the ring, and I'm telling everybody, hey, after the next entrant, we all need to be out of the way, and we need to not be doing much because this guy's going to be on a microphone. Let him get over. And I'm watching this go on, and I couldn't believe it because one of my guys is actually over in the corner beating the shit out of the guy that needs to be up. And I don't want to say any names because I don't want to I was so pissed off. I was like, what are you doing? Even the guy he's doing it to is greener, and he's looking up at him going, hey, man, I got to be up. This is my spot. And I go over there and I grab him off, and I say, what the fuck are you doing? I said, get off of him. It's his spot. He shoves me away and says, I got something I want to do right now. So I had to literally take this kid and get him on the ground and get a little rough with him and tell him while he's down there, like, dude, what the are you doing? This is this kid's spot. And then I look around and I'm going around the ring and pushing people back to corners and stuff. And I'm telling them, hey, just stop. There's one spot in this thing. It's a minute and a half. Let this guy get over on the microphone. Don't scoop his heat. He's ready to execute. And these guys aren't allowing him to execute. And it's just one thing. And it goes back to that. It's like the execution. Like, dude, why are you beating up the guy that needs to be up for this one particular spot? And this particular guy had come to the show, and he just had a bad fucking attitude the whole day. And it's like, that's the thing too. If you're going to show up at this show with a shit attitude, just get out of here. Don't need you. I'd rather a cancellation happen because of a shit attitude. I can deal with being sick. I can deal with somebody being a prick, and then I don't gotta give them the money, and I don't gotta deal with them. They're just gone. I'm like, okay, I know you're just a prick. Whatever. I don't got to deal with you. I don't have to. The guys that call you up 2-3 weeks in advance and are honest with you and say, hey, I think this is going to be a better booking. I respect you for that. And I'm not ever going to be like, oh man, I'm done with you, man. No, cool. Do your thing, man. Thanks for letting me know. Can I keep the graphic up so that we can build something off of this? That's one of the things I asked, because I'm like, hey, I'm going to keep the graphic up and keep promoting, because we're going to do an angle off of this. And I don't just want to change the graphic. And they don't realize that too. The execution of the camera guys, the execution of the producers, the commentators, the execution of the ladies who are serving the fucking hot dogs and the nachos, the people that are running the floor, the security, backstage, the runners, the bell ringer, the ring announcer, the wrestlers, the manager, the referee. You have to have your whole team on board. So if you're in a company where you're like, whoever's going to do the music, whoever's going to do the ring announcing, whatever, then you're going to get what you get. And there's going to be a lot of miscommunication because you can't communicate if there's no communication. So, and you can't expect people who don't want to learn and do this stuff to actually do a good job. If they don't care, they don't care. Don't book somebody because you're like, oh man, I like this guy, or maybe a couple guys online will think he's cool. And to go back real quick because we're less than 4 minutes left. This just fucking flew by. I'm not even done on this thing. We're gonna probably have to.
Oh, me neither. Me neither. I have other questions that I want to ask you, but we'll have to save them for another time.
We're gonna have to double this one up, man. This one's a good one. But you had said like the match graphic thing. We talked about ego. Well, like in particular, like I like your flyer for this show, but your flyer for this show doesn't have any wrestlers on it. It's got the information, it's got everything else. So for a guy who is trying to promote something in that instance, I meant to say it earlier, if there's no wrestlers on the flyer, but it's a wrestling flyer with the information, it's a cool flyer, but nobody's on there. So in that case, match graphics would be something that somebody would like to promote, because even if they promote a show they're going to be on, nobody sees their face on the flyer. And I think, not think, but a lot of people want that match graphic because maybe they're not on the poster. So if they got a match graphic, they could promote the poster, but their face ain't on it. And a lot of people, if they're going to try to promote and sell some tickets, they want to see, the people they're promoting to want to see them on the poster, or they want to see them on the match graphic. Your thoughts on that, my dude?
No, I think that makes 100%. That makes perfect sense. These are things that sometimes I don't even think about. You just think like, oh, it looks cool. Because I'm definitely not a big fan of having every person that you got on the card on your main flyer as well. That I think that looks a little too busy. So I like to, whatever you're calling your show, whatever you're trying to hook the fans in with, I think that needs to be present, and obviously all the information about how you would purchase tickets and what time the event starts and where it's at, all that stuff needs to be on there. But yeah, definitely that makes sense. If it isn't somebody that's on the flyer, or in our case, obviously this one's just a silhouette and trying to go with a wintry type theme. Yeah, definitely, it makes perfect sense why people would want to have.
15th, though.
What's that?
February 15th.
Yeah, February 15th. Yeah,
get it over, Paul. Let them know.
Yeah, that's it, man. It's that Winter's Wrath on February 15th here in Sparks, man. So
where is it? It's at
it's at Excel Christian, man, 850 Bering Boulevard here in Sparks, Nevada. So yeah, man, that's gonna be a blast, man. I hope we're gonna have a good crowd. We've been doing a lot of promoting and getting flyers and posters out there. So hopefully,
it will.
Taken from your lead, we'll make this
it will.
So hey, this is gonna be the biggest show 2025 for us.
It will be the biggest show in 2025 because I'm not even trying to be a smart ass or I told you so guy. It's just this show right here, I put in 3 hard weeks of promotion for it, just like the Red Bluff guys put in 3 hard weeks. And so the direct result of this is a show at the Red Bluff Community Center, packed house. Right. Fans I've never seen before. Oroville Convention Center, the Royal Rumble was on. It's raining. It's bad weather. Biggest packed house we've had in a long time because we put in the work, man. So if you put in the work, you're going to get the results. The results not only equal more people that want to be a part of this and more money for everyone, it equals more money for your company, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make money so you can sustain through what's going on in the world today, and you can keep running your promotion. And Paul, here we are. I'm going to do this today because I got to get my timing down. I've been going over a little bit, and that's exactly what this is. I'm not going to go over the time. I'm Zack Primetime Reeb. That's the Wrecking Ball. I spit on the screen right there. Wrecking Ball Paul Isadora. Thank you, everybody. Execute properly because it makes money. And guess what? We're going over.